people would say, you're an alcoholic, you need treatment, you're in trouble, you have an addiction, versus, oh, well, that's an herb and that's good for you and you're cool and, you know, you ought to get, you know, you can function in life and still do this. So my problem as public health officer is not so much the adult that is recreationally using marijuana, much like people drink beer or whiskey. I don't see the big difference. I'd much rather talk about medically in the emergency department where I work, as a hospitalist at UVMC where I work. The people that are dying are the people that are abusing alcohol and methamphetamines. Alcohol and testosterone are the two biggest problems we have in the county, not marijuana. I may have seen 2 people in the ER in the last 20 years about marijuana, okay? Having said that, I think there's an enormous amount of societal change that needs to occur to where our youth do not see marijuana as bagels, as some harmless problem. It is a huge problem of addiction in our county. I'll stop there.
Can I get the PowerPoint happening?
And I just want to introduce Mr. Cantor, who is a marijuana god from Northern California, who I think is an excellent speaker, and everyone should listen to everything he has to say.
Thank you very much, Marvin. That's a great intro. So my name is Ralph Cantor. I work at the Alameda County Office of Education. I drove up here today. And a lot of what I do is go into classrooms and I talk with youth, mostly high school kids, about weed. And so I hope that you are up for a little education tonight, because this is kind of like what I do with kids in the classroom. So the agenda, what I want to talk about is that I believe that youth and adults want to know about marijuana. And when I walk into a classroom and they say, okay, here comes Mr. Cantor and he's going to talk about marijuana, you know, the first thing I get from the kids is, oh, right, you know, here's another thing. But what I ask of you tonight, and what I was hoping from this forum, and what I ask of the youth when I go into the classroom, is to see if we can get off our attitude about weed. And I want to mention 2 attitudes. One attitude about weed is it's all bad. It's all bad. It leads to other drugs. You're going to end up on the street. Marijuana, bad. The other attitude is marijuana, oh, it's all good, all good. God put it on the planet. It's an herb for everybody to enjoy marijuana, all good. And it's because of these attitudes of either it being all good or all bad, and everyone is telling youth about it through that lens, that we don't get any real education. And what I'd like to be able to do with you, and what I do with youth in the classroom, is to be able to just get some education about marijuana. What does it do? You know, why is a marijuana high different than an alcohol high or a cocaine high? What does it do? And the truth is that youth and adults want to know that. And I think that that's part of what this forum tonight is about, is to just be able to educate people and have faith that people and youth can begin to make more informed decisions. That's what I want youth to do, is to be able to think about it more deeply and have more knowledge about it. The 2 things that I don't do with youth, just because I think it may be a little bit dicey, is I want to talk about the teenage brain. 2 facts about the teenage brain. There we go. Third, I want to talk about what is the effect of THC on the brain? Just what is a marijuana high? And lastly, for individual, it's different. People's brains are different. People's faces are different. How people react to drugs are differently. And so there's individual differences. But what happens if marijuana really works well? That's the one I want to talk about last. So here we go. I love the pointer here. This is an adult, they take pictures, fMRIs, in other words, activities in an adult brain over a period of time and activities in an adolescent brain. And you'll look at an adult brain, and when I talk about an adult brain, I'm talking about a brain that's over 25 years old. And that's where there's more activity in the prefrontal cortex, where people make decisions, they think about causes and effects. Adolescent brains are not quite up there. They're working towards that place, but they're more of an impulsive. They're not totally working, thinking about the future and doing all the planning that one would expect from a prefrontal cortex. This is why they don't rent a car to people that are under 25. They would like people to really be working from that part of the brain where they're really thinking about cause and effect. And things like drugs, like marijuana, in my opinion, is fairly sophisticated to deal with. I think sex is, you know, it can be very simple, but in some ways it's quite a sophisticated thing to deal with, and so are drugs and alcohol. And I think it takes a brain that really can think about all causes and effects. Secondly, is that a teenage brain goes through something called pruning. And I want to talk about pruning because I think it's really essential and it's different from an adult brain. In pruning, what happens is that they begin to organize the neural pathways in the brain. To say it in another way, when